Okay, so let's move to the NFL before we go to the NBA and the rest of free agency. Minkah Fitzpatrick now is a Miami Dolphin. I kind of just want to let you go in here and tell me exactly what you're thinking about this trade as a Miami Dolphins fan. We have to
Yeah, I'm
preface
glad
that.
that we used that clarification at the start, just in case anybody was wondering why I'm so invested in this. Minkah Fitzpatrick was a Miami Dolphin in 2018, and in 2019, essentially forced his way out of town, which was super unfortunate because he was definitely destined to become an All-Pro type of player, and obviously he did on the Steelers, at the very least a Pro Bowler. He was a great safety for the Miami Dolphins, and an area where we've drafted very well, but we just lost Javon Holland, and our secondary hasn't been very good for years on end, which is why we got Jalen Ramsey in the first place, who we eventually ended up being in this trade. But on paper, I really like it, especially given the second part of this coming this morning in Darren Waller's pickup. Minkah Fitzpatrick really helps out the secondary and can provide a lot of experience. He's still a Pro Bowler. I know that a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans will tell you that he's on the decline a little bit, but we don't have anybody, especially in the safety range, where at least in this upcoming season. And then you lose Jalen Ramsey, but if you watch Jalen Ramsey closely, as you did as a Miami Dolphins fan this past season, he is showing his age a lot. When he's not holding, he's getting beat by faster guys. It feels like he is a 30-year-old cornerback, and that's really what he's showing. Minkah Fitzpatrick is still only 28 years, he's still 28 years old. So neither of them are particularly young players. But would I rather have Minkah Fitzpatrick or Jalen Ramsey right now? I'd rather have Minkah Fitzpatrick. And then Jonnu Smith, I feel like everyone's saying that it was a huge loss for the Dolphins, but those people also weren't high on Johnny Smith coming into this past season. Johnny Smith broke out with the Dolphins and Tua's play style this past season, but it really was Tua and Johnny's connection that set him off. When he wasn't playing with Tua, there was a drastic decline in his production. He had maybe 30, 15 yards in games that Tua was injured, as opposed to 100+ yard games when he was playing. The checkdowns that he was able to take for longer yard games because of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill playing deeper into the secondary really helped him out. And I think that this is a bigger loss, or like it'll look like a bigger loss on paper, but Jonnu Smith felt replaceable, and Darren Waller has a very similar play style. And although he was retired and is an older version, I think that he provides something very similar and could be really great. And if not, our tight end room was terrible to be in with this season with if Jonnu Smith wasn't going to be here. So we take a flyer on a Darren Waller who's probably going to play at a veteran minimum contract and could be really good, or we could just be looking for another tight end into the trade time.
So obviously this is the second deal that the Steelers have done where it feels like they add something, but then they give something up at the same position. I'm curious as to your perspective on the Steelers as well. You're going to know more about this deal than I am. And frankly, obviously they get Jalen Ramsey. You mentioned, he looks like a 30-year-old corner out there, or a 30-year-old DB. So it's what exactly do you think the idea was here for the Steelers to make this kind of move? I mean, there's certainly reasons and stuff that it appears like it makes sense, but what do you think was the main reason for this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that on paper, Jalen Ramsey is still a really good player, and obviously, NFL GMs and NFL head coaches are watching a lot more film than any of us, so they know. It's hard to say that they don't know the best, but Jalen Ramsey is a really good second player in the secondary, and I think that he can help out their DB room. And then you look at Jonnu Smith, and although they have tight ends already, he does bring in a different element, and he almost plays a bigger wide receiver type of role where he can take he can take checkdowns, but he can also go out for longer routes, and is one of the slimmer tight ends. I feel can really take stuff longer than it should be. So I think from that perspective, adding a little even more depth from your tight end room and getting just a 2-for-1 in a player like Minkah Fitzpatrick, I feel from the Steelers' perspective, he is aging, and you don't really want to overpay a aging safety in today's NFL, but still, I don't see it all that much. I feel Steelers fans were also very unhappy with this move because Minkah Fitzpatrick has been good for them for six years now, and I can see the reasoning behind getting two players for one player, but I think that the Dolphins won this trade, at least from the perspective of also being able to pick up Darren Waller at the end of it.
Does this change the way that you see either of those teams as far as being contenders? Maybe not all the way to the Super Bowl, but just, their standing as far as the playoff picture?
I mean, I feel like as a Miami Dolphins fan, like over the last 20 years, you have to be like very realistic with like who they are as a team. I don't think that this makes them a championship contending team, but at the same time, we desperately needed help in the secondary. So the fact that you can bring in a guy like Minkah Fitzpatrick, a leader, and hopefully can teach some of the younger guys on this team like what it means to play like elite defense, that'd be awesome. And obviously, Jalen Ramsey kind of brings the same effect, but Jalen Ramsey and the Miami Dolphins just never felt like it worked out. Like he had a very good couple weeks where he had like 2 interceptions in 3 games and was off to a hot start. But ever since, it never felt like he gained as much traction as it felt like he should have. And from that perspective, I'm not like very sad to see him go. From an offensive perspective, Johnny Smith like felt like it probably feels like a bigger loss than it actually will be. And I think that this vaults them into like maybe a playoff position, maybe fighting for like a 6-7 seed, but I don't really see them getting out of the first round, especially like given the fact that last time we talked about the NFL, we talked about like the Steelers' chances and like what an NFL like playoffs like just looks like. You know what I mean? Where 1 through 4 seeds, it feels like it'll be the Chiefs, it'll be one of the Ravens or the Bengals, it'll be like the Texans or whoever comes out of the AFC South, and just a myriad, and the Bills, right? Like a myriad of teams that are just all like at an upper echelon level. And it doesn't feel like the Dolphins are quite on that level. And from the Steelers' perspective, it doesn't feel like that for them either.